Hey guys, Mr. Marone here. Welcome to your first flipped classroom lesson. Today we're going to talk about points, lines, and planes, the essentials of geometry. So in geometry we have undefined terms, which are three different terms that are considered the building blocks of geometry. They're considered undefined because they're so basic that we really need other more complex types of definitions to really give them some sort of weight. And as you can read there, they would require other pieces in order to really have a definition. Those three pieces are the point, the line, and the plane. Let's first take a look at the point. So the point indicates a location somewhere on space, on a piece of paper, on anything like that, and it has no size or dimension. It's represented by a dot on your paper that's labeled with a single capital letter. And it can be any capital letter, does not matter what. To give you an idea, here is point A. I could also have point C. I could have point P. It does not matter which letter you can use any of them. Now, when we look at a line is a little different than a point because it's a straight path that extends in opposite directions infinitely. It goes on forever. We don't have enough paper to indicate where one single line goes. It has one dimension, meaning it goes left or right, it goes up or down, we can measure it. But it has no thickness. And it's drawn with arrow points at the end of the line to indicate that it's going to keep going. We label it with two capital letters or one lowercase letter, and when we use the capital letter label, we tend to draw in an extra mini line above it. So if I've got line AB here, when I want to label it, I'm going to write AB next to each other, and I'm going to draw a little mini line over the top to indicate that it is a line. Another example of a line would be this crooked one that I drew with a lowercase or script L below it. The last undefined term is the plane. So a plane is represented by a flat surface, picture a piece of paper, a chalkboard, anything like that, and it's got two dimensions. So it can go up and down, left and right, but it still has no thickness. Okay, it's drawn as a slanted four-sided figure, picture a parallelogram, and it's named either by 3 points within the plane or by a single capital letter. So to draw two examples quickly, here's my first one, and we'll label it with 3 points. So point B, point D, point F, or I could draw in a separate plane with just a single capital letter in the corner, plane P. Within these three undefined terms, we have two relationships that come from them. The first one is considered collinear points. So when I have a line drawn in with my arrow points, and I have three or more points on it, like points A, G, J, those would be considered collinear points. They share the same line. And in similar fashion, just like we saw before, when there's three or more points on the same plane, they're considered coplanar. So I'm going to put P, R, S, and I'll put a Q out there. So all four of those are considered coplanar points. Co meaning with, just like collinear, coplanar. So look at this example. They're asking what are other two names for line QT? QT is running through the middle over here, and it goes through the paper. Picture stabbing a pencil through a piece of paper. The first option to rename it is to flip the letters. With lines, you can rotate the letters, name it QT or TQ, and you're referencing the same exact line. So we'll call it TQ and have our mini line over the top. Okay? Or we can use the lowercase letter that they used, in this case, M. Two other ways to name plane P would be to use these points that are on there, these coplanar points. So I've got R, Q, and S is one example. I could also name it R, Q, V, or say S, Q, V. Those are three possible examples. And when we look down here where it asks for three coplanar points, I'm just going to draw up to that as that answer. To name three collinear points, we got to look for lines. So we've got RQS here, and we've got TQN, those two lines there. Those 3 points can be used however you'd like, because there's two sets of coplanar or collinear points. So RQS is one option, and TQN is our other option. Now that we've got those three undefined terms, we're going to use points, lines, and planes to come up with these next three concepts, which are the first three and the ultimate basic definitions for geometry, our first three defined terms, which are the segment, the ray, and the opposite ray. So a segment is just a piece of the line, and we use the endpoints that we're going to name it with to stop the line, meaning we're only looking at a little snapshot of a total line. Okay, it can be used naming the same two capital letters just like a line, only we're going to draw a mini segment above it to indicate that it is in fact a piece of the line. So here's my endpoint indicators, and we'll call this points B and C. So this would be line segment BC. With a ray, you're going to have one endpoint, but the other side is going to continue on forever in one direction. Okay, and it's named with 2 points, but the key to this is that the endpoint has to come first. If we don't put the endpoint first, we're not reading the ray properly. So if I were to draw in a picture of this, I've got a ray here with one endpoint. We'll call that P, and we'll call this R. So I have to name it ray PR. I can't name it anything else. And I'm going to draw my mini ray over the top. To give you an example, this ray right here with an endpoint R and a point in here P, this is a totally different ray even though the names look the same. You have to use the endpoint first. And opposite rays are two rays that share an endpoint in the middle and they form a straight line. They continue off in opposite directions. And we're named with two different rays, but they have to have the same endpoint as the first piece of those names. So an example of opposite rays would be if I drew in a straight line here and I named this A, B, and C. You can see if I start at B and go to the left, I've got ray B, A. And if I start in the middle and go to the right, I've got ray B, C. Okay, they continue off in opposite directions and they share this endpoint B, and that's how B is the first letter in both of these. It's indicated there for us. So to wrap up this lesson, it asks, what are three segments in this diagram? Well, I've got D and E, that's one piece, okay, one of the smaller ones there, DE. Once again, remember to put our mini segment over top to indicate it. We've also got this piece here from E to F with our mini segment, or I've got DF. To name all the rays in the diagram, we're going to start with one endpoint. We'll start with point D, and I'm going to name all the rays that come from there. So I got DE with an array marker. We've got DF. Then I'm going to move up to E and name ray EF. But I can go in the opposite direction and name ray ED. And I can also name from F. So I've got FE and I've got FD. There's 6 possible rays in that diagram. The opposite rays are the ones that start at that middle endpoint, so point E, and they continue in opposite directions, so ED and ray EF. Once again, remembering through all of these that we're using our proper labeling over the top. That's all for this right now. If you have any questions, be sure to ask tomorrow in class, and watch this again if you have any trouble. Remember to answer the 2 or 3 questions on the bottom and make sure to submit this in your Google form before you come into class tomorrow. Have a great night.